Good evening. I'm Dr. Fred Rouse, the Real Money Doctor, and it's currently Friday, April 17th, just about 7 o'clock right now. And I want to touch base on today's daily recap of events that affect the way you get, protect, and enjoy your money, your life, and your retirement. And the question today is, where'd the money go? I'll get to that in just a few minutes. One of the biggest things that obviously affects your life at this point in time is the COVID situation. The current cases are currently 692,000 cases so far in the U.S. That's more than a couple other countries combined. Okay? The deaths right now are over 36,000 just in 3 months. The New York cases, because that's the hot spot, over 223,000 cases of COVID diagnosed so far. Of them, they've had 17,000 deaths. 13,000 of those are in New York City by itself. New Jersey comes in at number 2 spot with 78,000 deaths, or 78,000 cases, and 3,800 deaths. And the governor thinks that, sometime next week they may be hitting their peak. He's having a hell of a time there. The numbers keep growing every day. Yesterday, news broke with New Jersey had 17 bodies that were discovered in a nursing home. Today, a New York City nursing home in Queens had 29 deaths reported there. Right now, if you get COVID, you get about a 20% chance of you actually being hospitalized. Okay? The numbers are changing every day, but right now, if you get COVID, there's a 20% chance that you're going to end up in the hospital. Also, if you get COVID right now, there's a 10% chance that you're going to end up in the ICU. You're going to be that bad off that there's a 10% chance you're going to end up in the ICU. Now, on a weekly average, more people are dying from COVID than from cancer. Okay, that number right now, dying from COVID, is just about equal to the people dying from heart attacks and heart disease every week, and that's a leading killer in the U.S. right now. Now, I've got a graphic on this. This just came in this morning. I'm going to post this on the YouTube channel. When I post this tomorrow, I'll have that graphic included in there. It's rather alarming. Okay, this is a real serious deal. People keep blowing this off like, oh, it's just, it's not really. It's, because there's parts of the country that have very little activity in COVID right now. There are parts of the country that have very little activity in COVID, and that's a good thing. However, even those rural areas, the cases are starting to pick up. Now, if you're a healthcare worker, you're bearing the brunt of all this stuff. Anybody's in that profession, somewhere between 10 and 20% of all the COVID cases that were diagnosed are healthcare workers. Outside of the physical risk to them and their families, the mental stress is absolutely phenomenal. Again, they weren't expecting, nor could they have ever expected, when they joined the field, that they would experience this much death in this short period of time. And it's wearing on them big time. It really is. It's not a happy situation. The mental stress of all that is just not really good. They're having a hard time with that, and you could really expect in the coming months some serious PTSD happening in the healthcare field. Now, other than that, the next largest group is generally the retail clerks. They're having problems in the stores. Most of those people are having problems. Again, they're getting paid $11 an hour to stock the shelves. They're going in there every day, stocking shelves, checking out the cash register, and a lot more of those people are getting diagnosed and dying also. Most of that's work related because 85% of the customers are not practicing social distancing while they're in the stores, and they're not wearing masks. Now, New York City is so large all by itself that the transit workers there that transport all the essential workers in New York, because it's a big town, they're really greatly exposed and are sick and dying. And right now, they're dying at a rate almost twice as much from New York City police and fire departments combined. So it's not healthy being a transit worker. It's not healthy going out there. And people in the center of the country don't quite have it just yet because they're not swamped like this. The New York area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, has probably about 50% of the cases in the U.S., about 50% of the cases, so that it's spreading in other areas, but they don't quite get the picture just yet, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. The Sioux Falls, Dakota's pork processing plant I mentioned the other day, owned by Smithfield, they're still shut down. Two more plants shut down yesterday, one in Wisconsin, one in Missouri, again because of COVID. Okay. Today, a Tyson chicken processing plant in Georgia had a couple of deaths too. So it's spreading out. Again, these are labor-intensive jobs held by migrants and immigrant workers that come in, and they're willing to do these jobs for basically 10, 11 bucks an hour. And they can't social distance. The jobs are not set up that way. And what happens is, even if some of them get tested, some of those workers in Sioux Falls plant were tested, but they're waiting 2 or 3 days for the results to come back in. Again, if you're making 11 bucks an hour, you don't have a big house or a big apartment. If you're making 11 bucks an hour and you're an immigrant or a migrant that comes into the U.S. to work these jobs, chances are you brought the rest of your family with you for support. So there's not a lot of space there. And they get it at work, they bring it back home, and then it goes out from there. See what happens in the next couple of weeks or so. It's not going to be a pretty picture. Now, again, that's called community spread, and that's exactly why it works that way. These people have a hard time because they just don't have the money to buy the space. Now, the virus doesn't spread by itself. If you don't move, the virus doesn't move. Stay at home when you can. Now, I know people are going absolutely crazy with that, and I'm getting some nasty grams posted on Facebook because, I can't even say some of the things they're saying, but this is not Nazi Germany. Okay. People are not trampling on your rights. Well, a lot of people think they are. And let's leave it at that for now. Okay. If you go out, wear a mask. I mean, you're going to go out at some point in time. You have to go out to get groceries and things. That's okay. Okay. But wear a mask. Don't change your behavior to avoid infection. Just assume you're infected and change your behavior to avoid transmission. If you do that and keep the social distancing when you're out, chances are you'll probably be close to okay. Now, New York and New Jersey right now, both of those states are requiring people when they go out in a place that they're likely to meet other people to wear a mask. If you're out by yourself, chances are nobody's going to bother you. But if you're hanging out at a street corner, and again, you'd have to be in a city to understand hanging out in a street corner. It's a big thing in most cities. You got to wear a mask. And the social distancing is also going to help quite a bit. Now, Lansing, Michigan made the news the other day. They had a small group of people expressing their First Amendment rights to protest. And they were protesting the shutdown and any other little political thing that was bothering them at the time. Okay. More and more of these protests are popping up across the country right now as people are really tired of being locked down, and they're spurred on by comments and tweets from the president and some of the talking heads on the cable channels. Now, what these people that are doing the protesting don't quite realize that when it comes to the president, very few people come out who are close to the president that aren't being tested ahead of time. Now, unlike their fellow protesters that probably have not been tested, or if they were, they're still waiting for results, but they're out there protesting anyway, without social distancing and without masks. Some of them did, but most of them weren't. Okay, just make a note of where those protests were. Make a note of every city that's having those protests. If you see any video of that, look at those people. See how close they are. See if they're wearing masks or not. Okay? And then watch in a week or two. See what happens. Chances are, in all those cities, in all those locations, you're going to be able to see spikes in COVID cases, and you'll be able to track them back directly to the people that were at these protests. Okay? Now, as of today, Michigan has the 5th most COVID cases in the country, with about 29,000 cases and 2,000 deaths right now. However, these people were busy blocking the entrances to the hospitals, so the hospital staff couldn't get to work. Now, if you don't like something you want to protest it, that's great. It's really a good thing. Okay, you should be able to bring attention to whatever problem or situation you're not happy with. I mean, I go back to the 60s and 70s. Okay, I understand a good protest. I was involved in a few of them. Okay, and I at the time, and have to this day, the right to protest absolutely anything I want, in any way I want. All the way up to the point where it interferes with your rights to do the same thing. And the reverse is also true. You have the right to protest anything you want in any way you want, up until the point where it interferes with my rights to do the same thing. Now, I have no God-given or state-given right to force you to try and believe or do or not do any particular certain thing. And the reverse of that is, you have no God-given or state right either to force me to believe or do or not do any particular thing. So as long as we remain, and understand that absolute fact, we'll get along just fine. But that's where the rub comes in these days. Okay? People are not accepting the basic facts. They refuse to acknowledge that their personal biases or their political or financial interests affect how they interpret the facts, if they're willing to acknowledge the facts at all. Now, this is where you have problems. Some people don't want to spend time with their mind. They don't want to spend time and challenge themselves or their beliefs. They gather around with like-minded people and individuals, reinforce each other's beliefs that they're the right things, okay, and everybody else is wrong, but they're right. And then they go and they're no longer individuals. They're just part of a crowd. And then you have the mass hysteria that's easily whipped up to a frenzy by people with an agenda that don't understand what's happening. They're in the crowd, they're getting whipped up, and they have no idea what's going on. The agenda is generally very, very simple. It really is very simple, and is based on one or two, or a combination of two things. One, money, and two, power. Okay. The crowd generally has neither one of those things, but they get whipped up to the puppet masters, who unwittingly, the puppet masters design this. It's absolutely designed by the puppet masters, and the crowds have no idea what's going on. They unwittingly get wrapped up with this stuff, and they do their bidding. They increase the money and the power of the puppet masters. Okay? It's been going on that way for ages. It continues that way to today. Get away from the crowd. Turn off the news. Spend some time with your mind and discover that you're actually an individual and you can control your own thoughts and your own actions. I mean, it's difficult at first. I understand that because it's really unfamiliar territory for most people. Okay? It's easier just to go follow the crowd. You don't have to think about anything. Everybody's hollering, you holler. They stomp, you stomp. They go one direction, you go the same direction. Life is easy. You don't have to think about anything. And you think the crowd's going to take care of you. On the surface, it appears that way. In reality, you're just doing whatever the puppet masters want you to do. And you're making them money and giving them more power. And when it's all said and done at the end of the day, you have neither money or power. And you can tell that when you go home, okay, in your little house, your little apartment, and your little car, and you're hoping that the car makes it another day. You're hoping that the water heater doesn't break. You're hoping you've got enough rent, money for the rent, or money for the pay of food. And you really, really hope that you don't get sick because you don't have money to take care of your illness because you don't have health insurance. Or if you do, you don't know how much the copay is going to be, and you're going to be liable out of pocket. Now, once you go there, though, once you go to the part where you visit with your mind, you spend some time with your mind, you understand that you're actually an individual. Once you get there, it's a very, very freeing experience. It really is. And once you have that feeling, you seldom go back to the crowd because you finally understand you have control of your life. You might try it. You might like it. Okay. What else is going on in the world today? PPP closed yesterday. Okay. They ran out of money. And that brings us to today's question. Where'd the money go? You know what it was intended for? It was intended for small businesses that were infected by the pandemic and the financial problems due to the shutdown. $250 billion gone in basically 3 days. Where'd the money go? How many of you know a mom and pop business, a cleaning service, a plumber, electrician, a carpenter, HVAC person, hairdresser, nail salon, restaurant that got that money? If you know one, you know a lot. How many more of those companies and businesses do you know that didn't get any money? My guess is that the second group is much, much larger than the first. The bulk of that money ended up with big businesses, friends of the banks and the politicians. Remember, the puppet masters are only interested in two things: money and power. $250 billion bill, great opportunity for them. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I don't even want to get into, okay, you give a guy a gun and he robs a bank and he's a bad guy. You become the banker, you rob everybody. It's absolutely amazing. And the bankers never go to jail. But the guy with the gun, he always goes to jail. It's amazing how that works. Again, lack of money, lack of power, lack of influence. Now, right now, there's another bill in the works right now. Okay, the Congress is working on it, and they're trying to put protections in for the little guy. Okay, but as the politicians keep writing these things, you never know what's going to happen. And chances are, okay, they'll get something in there for the little guy, something in there for the hospital, something in there for the cities. But you know what's going to happen. They put little provisions in, and their friends and their donors walk away with the money. It's been happening every time. Some of the small people are going to get it, but most people who actually need it are not getting it. And I know of a couple of people that don't need it, but actually applied for it and actually getting it. It's very scary. It really is. Now, the president just announced a new $19 billion farm bill. Okay. The idea was to help the farmers because they're having problems with their products and everything. That's great. If you ever tracked any history of the farm bills in the last 15 years or so, 20 years or so, everybody talks about the family farm. There's very few of them left because they couldn't survive. So all the money in these farm bills goes to major farming conglomerates, major corporations who own a number of farms. They bought up the mom and pop farms. They bought up the family farms because the family farmers couldn't afford to keep them anymore. Life has changed. They didn't have the money or the power. But as you go in and you buy up these little farms, all of a sudden now your company has the money and the power. What a surprise. Now, okay, turn off the news. Spend some time with your mind. Find out that you're actually an individual and you can control your mind. You can control your life. You can control your money. Okay? You don't need a crowd. You don't need to get whipped into a frenzy and do what the puppet masters want you to do for them. Remember, all the people that are stirring the pot, okay, all the talking heads on TV, the people out there protesting, waving their flags and everything, they always wave the flags. Don't want to serve in the military, but they're willing to wave the flags, though. Same as the politicians. They don't serve the military, but very willing to wave the flags. And lo and behold, whenever there's a war, oh yeah, we love our troops, brave troops, yes, 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 yes. As soon as they come back from the war, they treat them like shit and they cut their funding. It happens every day, all the time. Talk to anybody in the service right now. Okay. Talk to anybody who's out of the service. See what the suicide rate is. Absolutely amazing. Because when they joined the service, they were promised certain things. When they got back, they weren't there. So anyway, we can get into that another day. I'm Dr. Fred Rouse, the Real Money Doctor. I'm here to help you get, protect, and enjoy your money, your life, and your retirement. I'll post this video on YouTube tomorrow. I'll post that chart also in that video. And again, I appreciate you being with me. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and I will see you then. Thank you.